What's up everyone, we're going to be going through the best NBA player props on Prizepicks today. Now I did want to show you the results from yesterday's picks from my exclusive Discord group, and as you guys see, we actually got 22 picks correct, which was absolutely insane. Now a lot of you comment wanting to see how many I got wrong, and I thought I'd show you in today's video. We actually got 0 picks right and got 22 right, which is a 100% win rate. Yes guys, you heard that right. We went perfect with a 100% win rate. So we're on a huge hot streak, but if you want to get a 100% win rate and get 22 picks right like me, win more bets and receive the best picks from some of the best bettors in the world for less than a cup of coffee, you can access the exclusive Discord and meet some of the best sport bettors in the game by joining my Patreon. Should be linked down below in the description. Once you join, you'll have complete access to the Discord and can start winning more bets today. So make sure to join my Patreon using the link in the description. And here's one of our members who just signed up and won himself $500 just yesterday. Another member who won $217 for the 5th day in a row since joining my Discord. So guys, if you want to win big money like our members, the link will be in the description, so go join the Patreon to have access to the Discord group, and I will be continuing to upload every single day on this channel the best bets and props, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my daily uploads. Also, quick shout out to QWTY01 who said W video, and shouts out to Ricardo Gioza 2981 who also said let's go, let's cash out today. So shouts out to them, and if you do want to win a shout out in the next video, all you have to do is comment down below in this video and like it, and you can be in the running to win a shout out in the next one. All right, so let's get straight into the first pick. And when it comes to these picks, I'm not saying to chuck all of them into a parlay and hope for the best. Pick and choose the ones that you like and the ones that work best for you. So the first pick we're talking about is none other than Luguentz Dort, and this one is for 7.5 points, and this one actually is for less. Now looking at Luguentz Dort, we've actually seen him go on the under in 2 out of the last 5 games. Now this one's an interesting one because we do see, Luguentz Dort has been a great player for OKC. Now on May 14th, facing off against Denver, we actually did see him do pretty well in that matchup. He actually had 12 points there. Then against Denver again on May 16th, had 10 points in that matchup. And then game 7, we actually saw him against Denver on May 19th. Have 6 points in that matchup. Then in game 1 on May 21st against Minnesota, in that first game, we actually saw him have 5 points there, and then 9 points on May 23rd, where he had 9 points in that matchup against Minnesota in game 2. So we did actually see him go on the under in 2 out of those last 5 games like we mentioned, but what we also did see is that his average over the last 5 is 8.4. So it is slightly above this line, but we do have a couple of outlier games like the one on May 14th where he did have 12 points, which we do believe was a little bit more of an outlier game, which has brought this line a little bit too high for our liking. But looking at the matchup even further, we all do know OKC face off against none other than Minnesota Timberwolves coming into this matchup. It's definitely going to be an exciting one due to the fact that we do know that this series is currently 2-0 going OKC's way. Now, when we look at both of these teams and standing wise, obviously we do know this is the only NBA game for today, so all the picks are going to have some overlap, but Thunder did come in at the number 1 spot with a 68-14 record and an 82.9% win percentage, which I thought was great, and had a 4-game win streak actually to finish off the season. Now, they face off against the Timberwolves, who do come in at the 6th spot in the Western Conference with a 49-33 record. So they actually did a fantastic job. They also finished with a 3-game win streak. And a big thing about this is that when we look at this, actual matchup as well, both of these teams had a very tough battle to get into, this stage or this part of the Western Conference Finals. It's definitely been a tough road for both. We saw Oklahoma City Thunder actually do 68-14 record like we mentioned, but they did actually knock out the Grizzlies in round 1, and then also knocked out the Denver Nuggets, who are a very tough team. Took them all the way to 7 games and was able to knock them out. And then Timberwolves on the other side also had a pretty tough battle. They took on the 3rd seed Lakers with a 50-32 record, which is what Lakers had. And then after knocking them out, they had to knock down, a great team of Warriors without Stephen Curry, but were able to get it done in 5. So both have definitely had a tough battle there. And looking at this matchup, obviously looking at Minnesota and where they do rank when it comes to points, we do see that Minnesota Timberwolves, when it comes to points allowed, they do actually rank 5th. So they rank very, very high. And that's a big reason why we do like the under for this situation here. When we look at Minnesota further, we also do see that they do a fantastic job at restricting points to the guard position. And that's a big reason why we do like the under for this situation here. Now, Luguentz Dort is a great player. And on top of that, we also do see that his usage rate isn't really that high in points, which is why we are expecting him to somewhat suffer in this sense. Although he did go on the over in the most recent game, there definitely can be games where, obviously it is unpredictable. There can be games he goes on the over, some games he goes on the under. But in this game 3, we are expecting to go on the under, especially since it is going to be Minnesota's home court. So obviously, the momentum is going to be somewhat in Minnesota's favor, as the crowd is obviously going to be cheering for them. But just on top of anything else, we are expecting the star players like SGA and others to actually provide more of that scoring. And Dort should just have more of a defensive role, as, he is tend to being the defensive player for this team. So for that reason, we do very, very much like, the under for this situation here. Now, looking at Luguentz Dort as well, we also do see when we look at his matchups against Minnesota during the regular season, we definitely saw some interesting things. We saw on the 31st of December, we actually saw him have 14 points against Minnesota in that matchup. Then on the 13th of February, had 14 points there. Then on the 23rd of February, also had 4 points. And on the 24th of February, also had 5 points there. So we actually saw him go on the under in 2 out of those 4 games. So we definitely do like the under for this situation here. When it comes to someone like Luguentz Dort, we do like the under due to the fact that when we look at the matchups, obviously the times that he has gone on the under, it's been the most recent times, and we definitely have seen Minnesota adjust to OKC and the type of offense that they do run. But looking at these games, when we look at the regular season, it's definitely going to be a little bit different to the playoffs. Obviously, playoffs, they're definitely going to focus in a lot more on the actual team itself, have different sort of defensive strategies. So these are some things you want to take into consideration as well. But overall, we do like the under for this one. So for that reason, we are sticking to the under. So Luguentz Dort, 7.5 points for less, I think is a fantastic pick. Now, getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about none other than actually Donte DiVincenzo. So Donte DiVincenzo, great player for none other than the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this one is a great one because this is actually for points as well, for 9.5. And this one actually is for less. Now, looking at Donte DiVincenzo, we actually have seen him go on the under in 4 out of the last 5 games. Now, he does face off against Oklahoma City Thunder, as we all know. But looking at Donte's last 5 games, we see on May 11th, faced off against Warriors, where he had 2 points there. Then on May 13th, against Warriors again, had 9 points in that matchup. Then on May 15th against Warriors had 13 points. On May 21st, which was game 1 against Oklahoma City Thunder, we actually saw him have 9 points in that matchup, and then also had 8 points on May 23rd against OKC again. So, we have seen him go in the under quite consistently. Donte DiVincenzo hasn't really had the usage rate that we were expecting, and has definitely been on the lower side of things, especially now that they are down 2-0, in this actual series. So, looking at this series even further, like I mentioned, Minnesota, OKC, both very, very good teams, but OKC are currently up 2-0 in this race. Now, when we look at the NBA standings, obviously, we already did mention Thunder are the favorites in a sense of ranking, but looking at Oklahoma City Thunder as well, we also do see that they rank 3rd when it comes to points allowed. And that's a big, big reason why we do very much like the under for this situation here. When we look at Donte DiVincenzo, he also is a guard, and Oklahoma City Thunder actually do a fantastic job at restricting, points to the guard position. So we definitely see someone like Donte going on the under in this situation here. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for this one. Now, looking at Donte DiVincenzo, we also do see that Donte's in a bit of an interesting situation because his usage rate has definitely remained pretty low. And we have seen Minnesota really hone in, focus on players like Julius Randle, like, other players like Jaden McDaniels or even Anthony Edwards to do a lot more of the scoring. So DiVincenzo, yes, he does get the opportunity here and there to score, but I think overall it's definitely been on the lower side due to the fact that, this team has actually looked elsewhere when it comes to providing the scoring, and Donte DiVincenzo has been left to do a little bit more of the actual, defensive work than anything else. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for this situation here, and we definitely see him going on the under in this situation as well. So looking at also Donte DiVincenzo against Oklahoma City in the past, we have actually seen them face off actually only once. And in that matchup, we actually saw him have 10 points in that matchup, which was on the 31st of December. So, it was an interesting time to play against them. He did actually slightly go on the over just by 0.5, but it's not really convincing enough to us, enough for us to go or to like the over for it. And that's why we are sticking to the under for this situation here. So I definitely would keep an eye out for that. Now, when we look at someone like Donte as well, obviously, like I mentioned, playoffs, we've definitely seen a different strategy that Minnesota have been running, and it should lead him to the under as well. So Donte DiVincenzo, 9.5 points for less, I think is a fantastic pick. Now, getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about Chet Holmgren. So as you all know, Chet Holmgren, great player for none other than the actual Oklahoma City Thunder, but face off against Minnesota. Apologies for that, guys. And when we look at Chet, this one is a big one because this one is for 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists, so PRA for less. So looking at this one, we actually have seen Chet go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now, this one's a big one to us as well because when we look at Chet, we have seen him on May 14th against Denver, only had a 23 PRA there. On May 16th against Denver, had a 31 PRA there. Game 7, we saw him on May 19th against Denver have a 25 PRA in that matchup. And then on top of that, moving further, we also saw on May 21st against Minnesota in that first game, we saw him have a 25 PRA and then a 28 PRA on May 23rd. So we have seen him go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now, his average over the last 5 is also 26.4. So we have seen Chet go on the under quite a lot. And even some of the games that he has gone on the over, it hasn't really been convincing enough to us just yet. And that's a big reason why we do like the under for this situation here. Now, like we mentioned before, average over the last 5 is 26.4, so just slightly below this line. But obviously, OKC, Minnesota, we both know where they do rank in standing. We both know the score of this series so far. But looking at Timberwolves, we see that they rank 5th when it comes to points allowed, 5th when it comes to assists allowed, and then rebounds allowed, we actually see them rank 8th. So Minnesota, not only just in points, but they rank very well in all 3 categories. And another big reason for this is that when we look at Minnesota, not only do they do a great job defensively, but they do a great job at defending points, rebounds, and assists to the actual big man position. And that's where we definitely see or are expecting to see Chet to struggle quite a bit. He has definitely struggled, not just this series, but also even in the last series, especially against some, great big men in a sense of defense. He faced off against Jokic and also Aaron Gordon in the last series. Now he is facing off against Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert, who is a defensive player of the year. Not this year, but, has been a defensive player of the year. So it's definitely been a lot of pressure on Chet, and Chet hasn't really been able to convert. He has gone on the under more times than he has gone on the over, and that's definitely a big reason why we are sticking to the under for this situation here. Now, looking at Chet actually against, Minnesota over the last couple of games during the regular season, we definitely have seen some pretty interesting things. We saw in their first matchup, which was on the 13th of February, we saw him have 11 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists in that matchup, which was a 25 PRA. So it did slightly go on the under there. Then after that, we also saw them face off against each other in the same month on the 23rd. We had 19 points, 4 rebounds, and also 1 assist there, and he had 24 PRA there. So he actually did go on the under in both. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for this situation here. Obviously, looking at this next matchup, a big difference between this game versus the last two is that they are going to be in Minnesota's home court. So there is definitely some psychological advantage that, you know, the team does get if it is their home court. The crowd is on their side. They tend to be able to control the game a little bit more at times. Really does depend on the team. But I do believe these little effects are definitely going to affect someone like Chet. And we can definitely see him going on the under in this one. So when we look at what the bookies are saying, bookies also have him favored for the under as well. So Chet Holmgren, 26.5 points, revs, and assists for less, I think is a fantastic pick. All right, so as you all know, I do want to get these picks out to you as soon as possible, but Prizepicks is delayed with some of their lines. So here are a couple of players you should definitely watch out for when their lines drop. So the first player we're going to be talking about is none other than Alex Caruso. So as you all know, there is only one game for today, but this one is a fantastic player to look at because Caruso during the regular season did actually average 7.1 points, 2.9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, while also shooting 44.6% from the field. So he's done a fantastic job for OKC this whole season, and that is a big reason why they are in the position that they are in the Western Conference Finals. Now looking at actually the matchup, just to reiterate again, obviously Thunder do face off against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now Thunder are currently up 2-0 in the series. Now Thunder in the regular season did actually come in first with a record of 68-14. So they did a fantastic job there. They had an 82.9% win percentage, which I thought was fantastic to see. And on top of that, they also finished off the season with a 4-game win streak. Now they face off against Timberwolves, who do have a good record as well, but not as great, as they came in at the 6th spot in the Western Conference with a 49-33 record. Now they had actually a 59.8% win percentage, which was decent to see. And on top of that, when you also look further, you also do see that OKC did have a very, tough battle to get to the, Western Conference Finals, and so did the Minnesota Timberwolves. So both of these teams definitely deserve to be there. Thunder did have to face off against the Grizzlies, who although are in the 8th seed, they were actually a still very good team. They were able to get that done in a hurry, but in the second round, they did actually face off, against a very tough team, which were the Denver Nuggets, and were able to get it done there as it went to Game 7. Then on the other side of things, you also saw Timberwolves do a great job where they actually knocked out a higher seed, the number 3 seed, which was Lakers, in round 1, and then in round 2 took on the Golden State Warriors, where they were able to knock them out, in just 5 games. So Timberwolves have also had a very long journey to the Western Conference Finals. So both of these teams are looking, to take them to that next level and have their first chance at actually making the NBA Finals for both of these squads, in a sense of, these actual teams, not just the club itself or the franchise itself. Now, looking at, both of these teams as well, we do see that when we look at Minnesota Timberwolves defensively, we do know that they rank 5th in points allowed, 5th in assists allowed, and 8th in rebounds allowed. Now, when it comes to someone like Alex Caruso, we do very much like the under for this situation here, but strictly just for rebounds and assists. Now, a big reason being for this is that when it comes to Alex Caruso, his main job out there is definitely just to play defense. We definitely saw a lot of that in, that first game and also second, where all his main duties out there was to play defense on, Anthony Edwards, maybe sometimes Julius Randle, and a mix of those two. Now, the reason why we are only focusing on rebounds and assists is that when it comes to actually Caruso's usage rate, it definitely tends to be very, up in the air when it comes to points. Some games he, scores quite a lot. Other games he doesn't. We tend to see rebounds and assists for Caruso being a little bit more consistent compared to the defense that the other team provides. And that's why we are focusing a little bit more on the rebounds and assists compared to points there. Now, Caruso obviously is a still an integral player to this roster. We did see him do a great job, as we've seen in the last 5 games. We saw in Game 5 against Denver, where they won 112-105. He actually had 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists in that matchup. Then in Game 6, had 10 points, 4 assists, and also 0 rebounds in Game 6 with a 119-107 loss. Then in Game 7, had a 125-93 victory where he had 11 points, 3 assists, and also 0 rebounds there. But heading into the next matchup, obviously they do face off against Minnesota Timberwolves in this, recent sort of series. So obviously we are going to see different stats, but in Game 1, they won 114-88. So they did actually end up beating them quite a lot. He had 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 0 assists in that matchup, which I thought was great to see. And on top of that, when you look at Game 2, so I'm going to have 9 points, 2 assists, and also 2 rebounds there. So when we look at that, you also do see that, yes, they won both of those games. He did go a little bit higher in points in both of those games. However, when you look at the others, such as rebounds and assists, we actually saw him go more, on the under in that matchup. So, for that reason, we think it's definitely going to be a big, big matchup coming into this next one. Looking at someone like, Alex Caruso, his usage rate is definitely more focused on just playing great defense. He isn't really the main scorer. He's in the main playmaker or main rebounder, and that's why we do very much like the under for this situation here. So keep an eye out for Caruso's line. Like I mentioned, focus on a little bit more on rebounds and assists, where that is where we see a lot more of, Caruso going on the under, or more likely of going on the under in those two categories. Now, getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Mike Conley. So as you all know, Mike Conley, great player for the Minnesota Timberwolves as well. Now, he did a fantastic job during the regular season, but we do see Mike Conley did average 8.2 points in the regular season, 2.6 rebounds, also 4.5 assists, while also shooting 40% from the field. So he definitely did a fantastic job for the Minnesota Timberwolves in actually, the whole regular season. Now, we did actually see him rank 150th plus in points, 150 plus in rebounds, and then 47th in assists. So he's definitely more of an assist guy for sure. Now, looking at someone like, of Mike Conley's caliber, yes, he's been an integral part to this team. Now, Minnesota do face off against the Thunder, as we all know. But what we also do see is that, Minnesota are currently down 2-0 in this series. So because of that, it's definitely going to be a big game for the Minnesota Timberwolves. If they do go down 3-0, it's definitely going to be a very tough battle. Now, a big reason being for that is that no team has actually ever come back from a 3-0 kind of comeback. No team has ever come back, so that's why they are going to try to avoid that and see if they can pull off a win, right here in this next one, and hopefully try to get back into this series. So, looking at Timberwolves and Thunder, we do see that the Thunder do rank 3rd when it comes to points allowed. They also rank 4th when it comes to assists allowed. And then rebounds allowed, they do rank 20th. Now, when it comes to someone like Conley, we do very much like the under for this situation here for someone like Mike Conley, but strictly just for points and assists. Now, when it comes to Conley, he is a great player, and he definitely had good volume in Game 1 and Game 2 against Oklahoma. But what we did see is that Mike Conley has had a lot of defensive pressure on him that, he wasn't able to convert, that well. And OKC are a great defensive team. There is a reason why they are the number 1 team in the Western Conference, and that's why we are expecting a similar outcome coming into this next one. On top of this, also is a very crucial and integral game to both of these teams, but especially Timberwolves. Like I mentioned, it is going to be very difficult to come back if they go down 3-0, and we are expecting players like Julius Randle, like Anthony Edwards, to have a little bit more usage rate than we usually do see from them. So for that reason, we do very much like, the under for those situations here. Now, obviously, we do know Thunder do rank a little bit lower in that rebounding category, so that's why we are definitely focusing a little bit more on points and assists when it comes to this. So for that reason is why we do very much like the under for someone like Mike Conley. Now, looking at this further, we do see him have some pretty good games in others and pretty poor in others. But looking at Game 3 against the Warriors, where they won 102-97, we actually saw him have 7 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists there. Then after that, we also saw in Game 4, 117-110 victory. We had 11 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds there. After that, game 5 had 16 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds in that matchup. Then 7 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds in game 1 with the loss against, Oklahoma City Thunder, 114 to 88 loss there. After that, we saw in game 2 had 3 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds with a 118-103 loss. So, we actually have seen him go on the under quite on a few of those games. Obviously, he has had, a lot of defensive pressure on him, and he hasn't really been able to convert in both game 1 and game 2 when it talks about, looking at where they have actually gone for, in the future. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for that situation. When we look at OKC, their defense remains strong, and Conley tends to play and try to score mainly off the 3-ball. And since that is the case, we are expecting the under for a situation like this. So for that reason, keep an eye out for Mike Conley. We do very much like the under for this situation here for someone of Conley's caliber. So keep an eye out for the line. If the line is too close to his averages, definitely look to go on the under. But like I mentioned, focus a little bit more on points and assists there. Now getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Isaiah Hartenstein. So Isaiah Hartenstein, great player, as we all know, has done a fantastic job throughout the regular season. And obviously, guys, like I mentioned, there is only one game, but he has actually averaged 11.2 points, 10.7 rebounds, 3.8 assists, while also shooting 58.1% from the field. So he's done a fantastic job there. Now, when we look at someone like Oklahoma City Thunder and also Isaiah, we have seen them do a great job during the regular season. Like we mentioned before, they did actually rank number 1. And, just to reiterate with the matchup, Thunder face off against Timberwolves, and then also reminding you about Timberwolves where they rank defensively. We do see that Timberwolves do rank 5th in points allowed, 5th in assists allowed, and then also 8th in rebounds allowed. So they actually are a very great defensive team. Now, when it comes to someone like Hartenstein, we do actually like the under for this situation here. Now, not only do Timberwolves do rank very well when it comes to restricting points, rebounds, and assists, but what we have seen is that Isaiah Hartenstein playing for the Thunder, we have actually seen that, Isaiah Hartenstein, who does play that center position, we actually do see that Timberwolves do a fantastic job at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the center position. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for this situation here. We definitely see him going on the under in a situation like this due to the fact that we have actually seen Hartenstein's minutes be a little bit, up in the air due to the fact that when we look closer, you see that some of the matchups that he does face off against, Hartenstein may not get, the same amount of minutes because of the matchups that Timberwolves are trying to run and also OKC are trying to run. So for that reason, we definitely see it going in multiple directions due to the fact that when you look at Isaiah Hartenstein, his minutes have definitely been restricted. I wouldn't say crazy, but just slightly enough in some situations, depending on what Timberwolves give them, on their side of things. Now, looking at Isaiah Hartenstein over the last 5 games, he definitely has had some pretty decent games. We saw in game 5 against Denver, where they won 112 to 105. He had 15 points, 2 assists, and 7 rebounds there. Then in game 6, 119-107 victory, had 8 points, 6 rebounds, and 0 assists in that matchup, where they actually lost that one. Then in game 7, where they won and advanced to the next round, had a 125-93 victory, where he had 10 points, 1 assist, and 7 rebounds there. Then obviously facing off against Minnesota, who are also a great defensive team. We saw in game 1, 114-88 victory. We saw him have 12 points, 5 rebounds, and 0 assists there. And then in game 2 against Minnesota, had a 118-103 victory where he had 6 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists there. So for that reason, we do very much like, the under for this situation here. Minnesota have always been a great defensive team, and we are expecting them to do the same coming into this next matchup. So for that reason, keep an eye out for Isaiah Hartenstein's line. I don't really think you need to focus on points, rebounds, and assists. I think all 3 definitely have, the capability to definitely go on the under on this one. So for that reason, we do very much like the under here.